Okay, so first, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming painfully early in the morning. I am absolutely not a morning person, and some of you presumably are not either. Um, so everybody's aware there's changes happening. At this point, I want to just get a feel from people out here. If you're, is there enthusiasm? Is there, okay, we got enthusiasm. Man, why don't you do this, Doc? You're great. Fear? Anybody? Some? Pissed? Anybody? Nobody's pissed. Darn it. Yes. Okay. Okay. So here's the deal. I will try and be as blunt and as factual as I can. There are going to be pieces that I can't talk about. If you ask that, I'll tell you like what I can't talk about, and I'll do my best to tell you why. But I'm going to I'll try and be as blunt and as forthright as I can. The fundamental reality.
I took my cell phone. I'm a mess this morning.
Actually, just to give me a sense, if you are a certified judge, raise your hand. Okay, so there's like 3 people here who aren't. Okay, so 4.5, 5 months ago, Wizards of the Coast folks came to me and told me some stuff about what needed to happen with the judge program. Okay? And my first thought was, okay, I want the future of the judge program to be a nonprofit. That was my starting point. I also realized that there were a few things that needed to happen. One of which is there's not enough work for judges right now, right? Are you with me? Anybody? Let's just make sure we're all on the same page. Does anybody think there's enough work for judges? No. Okay. A lot of that, in my opinion, is due to what I think of as I think organized play for Magic right now doesn't serve the community or judges as well as it should. We used to have a system where there was what? Regional, states, nationals, junior super series. There were PTQs. There were events called pre-releases that brought the whole community together, right? Of those, we have, the only thing we really have at this point is we have pre-releases that don't bring a community together, and we have Grand Prix that just by a different name that do some of that function. We're missing a lot of opportunities to judge. Okay? Right? Ultimately, I trust that Wizards of the Coast is going to create more opportunities to judge, but not fast enough, and it's not going to work for the size of the judge program we have. And we're in a situation where judges need more opportunities to judge. Okay? So that's one of my starting premises, right? If you disagree with me about that, you're not going to like anything I have to say. But I think fundamentally we need more opportunities to judge. If we're going to get more opportunities to judge, we're going to have to go beyond Magic. Okay? We've got to have, luckily, the skills of judges translate well beyond Magic. They translate to every board game, every trading card game, and they also translate into esports. And what I think we need to do is move beyond just serving the Magic community to serving tabletop and esports as a whole. Okay? That's my basic premise. Okay? And in order to do that, and it is not possible to Carter, can you foil everybody out as they arrive? Okay, or just take care of it. You got it. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so So what we've got to do is we've got to figure out a way to expand so there's more judging opportunities. We've got to have a legal structure that actually makes sense for the judge program, right? Because actually, does everybody here understand what the legal structure of the judge program was previously?
Was there one?
Yeah, you're right. It was a trick question. No, go ahead. Say that louder.
Was there one?
Anybody know what it was? Nothing. Nothing. It was not a nonprofit. It was not a for-profit. It literally had no legal structure. Ultimately, that needed to be remedied. I thought the way to do it was a nonprofit. I ran into this really interesting situation, though, when I started talking to publishers, and I don't just mean Wizards of the Coast. When I talk to everybody in gaming, because I'm obviously talking with a lot of publishers, and and I assumed everybody would be willing, able to contract with nonprofit entities in order to do a thing, right? Seems logical. Well, it turns out that's actually not how the world works. I didn't know. And what specifically happened was, so how it was explained to me is, let's say you're the new vice president of Mucky Muck at whatever company, right? So your kid's in a softball league, or your kid's at a private school that's a nonprofit or whatever. So you come to your corporate giving department and you're like, hey, why don't you take care of my kid's thing, right? Obvious case of corruption, right? In order to prevent that, every company in the world that's of any significant size has a corporate giving policy that dictates how they can interact with nonprofits. And to my surprise and chagrin, the vast majority of them have set themselves up so they just can't do regular business. What they can do is there's a criteria. If your nonprofit meets the criteria, they will donate money to you. If it doesn't happen. And so what happened was, and the other piece of it is, and if you do persuade them to give you funds or items or whatever it is, which are absolute, you can't run a program without resources, right? So if you do persuade them to give you resources, it takes those resources away from something else. So if you sign up and you persuade a company to give you resources to do a judge thing, it takes it away from the Red Cross, or it takes it away from whatever they're doing with their charity funds. To me, that didn't make a ton of sense, but ultimately it's the reality. And so if we're going to have legal structure, it's got to be a for-profit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm trying to hit out the major points that everybody was asking the day before yesterday. On the internet, people really want me to form a union. That was the number one message, right? As people were ripping me a new one on Reddit, right? Want a union? Okay, so let's talk about that. Actually, show of hands. Anybody want a union? Okay, a few. Okay.
Undecided. Some.
Okay. So here's the problem. So first of all, what I need to tell you is, if you want to meet a union, there is nothing in the world stopping you from forming a union. Okay? You go be you, and you go do that. Okay? There's a couple pieces though, and I mean that in all sincerity. I'm not going to do anything to stop it, but if you want the judge program to be global in scope, which is another thing I'm getting ripped on fairly hard on Reddit, right? We're not going to be ready by October 1 in order to serve the entire world. I know that sucks, but that's reality. It just takes time to do this, and we haven't had the time to do it. So if you want something that's a union, actually, do you guys know what a union does fundamentally? Kind of, sort of? Unions, how a union works is you get everybody in a field to agree to follow certain rules, you monopolize labor, And you use that monopoly on labor in order to drive up prices, okay? In order to get workers paid more money, okay? Which sounds good in theory. Unions, by definition, have to be national in scope. So you can have a US union. In some circumstances, you can stretch it into the United States and Canada, but there's not a legal framework for an international union that covers the entire world. Okay? So if you want a union, you could form a union in your country and maybe closely aligned countries, but you can't do it as a global program. It just, there's no legal framework for it. And then the other problem, okay? Fundamentally, what people keep telling me they want is I want to be able to maximize my income when I work for PTOs or whatever, right? I want to lift up those wages, but people are really divided about when I help out at Bob's House of Comics, do I want to charge Bob and do I want to charge Bob the same rates everywhere else? I don't know a way to create a union where everybody gets paid well, except whenever you want to help out your buddy, you get to work for free, right? That's not a thing. It doesn't work, right? And the other piece of it is charging more for PTOs seems like an entirely reasonable thing to try to do. Trying to do it, and like, we're not going to succeed in getting more money out of small retailers. They're on the verge of going out of business every day, right? And so there's got to be a different answer there. Okay, so that's the quick overview of it's got to be a for-profit. You can't have a union and have it be international. It just doesn't work. So what can you have? And specifically, what problem am I trying to solve for, right? What I'm trying to do is fix the legal structure, have ongoing foils and support, build an online learning community, have kick-ass conferences, do that on a global level, and represent the judge community well so that we can, over time, make the case to retailers, to tournament organizers, to different organizations that they should use judges rather than these god-awful travesties of events where you have a big event and you have no judge, right? So those are the pieces that I'm trying to solve for. And frankly, I'm getting ripped up all over the internet because I can't solve all the problems of the world. And what I specifically can't solve for is I can't deliver a union for you. There's just not a way to do it. And so for that, I'm sorry, but that is what it is. Okay. So start asking questions, because that was just a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, and you keep track of that, folks.
But given the law change, when do you expect to start testing
Okay, I am going to give you the least satisfying answer that you've ever had in your life. Okay, ready? And I can't, what? Sure. Under Judge Academy, when can we start testing for L2? I got two parts for you in this answer, and you're not going to like either of them. Okay. Number one, we have had 4.5 months to work on this, on building an international program. I don't have the structure yet. I've started hiring people. I've been self-funding all of this. I've started hiring people. We're going to get an answer to this question. But the truth is, when are we going to do this? I don't know. Because some of you are asking, well, there's an L2 test right now. Why don't you use the L2 test, right? Who owns the L2 test right now? Anybody? No. Shout out some Hasbro. Hasbro. Wrong. Keep going.
Absolutely
No one.
No one.
Actually, not correct. Keep going. Kind of, closest. Okay, here's why it's not Hasbro. If you do work as an independent contractor, whatever, you do creative work, you own the copyright to what you've done. And it doesn't matter if it's writing one letter or writing an essay or a blog. That's yours. Unless you assign your work to someone in exchange for something of value, it's yours. That's how copyright works, right? You with me? Did anybody here submit a test question for anything? Anybody? Okay. When you did that, did you assign the test question? Did you assign your work to anyone? Turns out you own the test question. Congratulations, Carter owns the test question. But yes, but you don't own the entire test. You own whatever words you wrote. And then somebody else came and edited those words. And now who the hell owns it? I don't know. And every test question is owned by the people who contributed to it. So what we're going to need to do is redevelop all of the judge tests, because there's no legal framework to transfer ownership. And one of the things I feel really strongly about, I'm not going to steal from you. I know that's a bummer. You were thinking, hey, it'd be great if I could steal from you. But if you've created a thing, it's yours. And so we're going to come up with a process where we hire people and we pay them to do the work that they do. And so we're going to have to create a new test. Was that answer at all satisfying? Good, good. I'm glad you, sir, are in touch with reality, because it's not a satisfying answer. So the priority is, one, to get the test up for level 1. And then as quickly as possible to get tests up for levels 2 and 3. But there has simply not been enough time to do that. I hope we will have L1 done by October 1st. I cannot tell you the actual timeline for L2 and L3. We're not going to significantly change L2 or L3 for quite a while, but it's going to take some time to do this. And how the judge program has done things in the past, which is throw an army of people at it, doesn't work if what we're doing is we're paying people. Okay, next question. Go.
Just a small one. I noticed, I think you mentioned badges in Russian tree. Is that planned to only be online? It's not going to be something. I'm just imagining with generals, stars, all the rest project.
Okay, so one of the things I was going to embed it in there. One of the things that we've talked about, not just talked about, one of the things we are actively developing right now is a online learning platform where we divide every level into a series of badges. A series of badges that says this is the skill, and then there's a sub-test in order for folks to be able to test for that thing. There will also be an ultimate test for L1, L2, L3, whatever. But we're going to break it down into smaller subsections, and we're going to have what we call electives as well. So there will be learning modules online with video content and everything else in order to address the skills that you might want to have at a level, but there are some things that won't be specifically required. So for instance, scorekeeping would be one for instance. You know something else? If L1 means you're the person who can help that store in that area do the thing, well, every store should be considering streaming their events. And so we need to have an elective, a learning module built around streaming, scorekeeping, marketing your event, all of the skills that are necessary in order to help the retailer actually thrive. Because ultimately, Wizards of the Coast is not going to require judges in order to run events. Now, I suspect that if you're Bob's House of Comics and you decide to run a larger event, with no judges, and the event descends into a steaming wreck, and there's just a smoking crater, and it takes 5 hours to flip around. I suspect you won't get that event again, but they're not going to tell the world you must have judges. That means what we have to do, and hopefully you guys join with me on this one, is we've got to make the argument out for the world of your event is better, it will make more money for the retailer, it will go better if you have a judge. And that means, I don't know if this is still a current thing, but years ago, there were a bunch of judges who said things like, I am a judge, I am not interested in customer service, I am not interested in your store community, I'm not interested in anything other than showing up and delivering rulings. I suspect if that's your philosophy, it's going to be harder and harder to get a gig as a judge. But if what you want is to have a wide suite of skills that you can actually help do a thing, then we're going to try and help you get that. Who's next? Just point. Okay.
What forum is the best way to send feedback, comments, or suggestions to Judge Academy?
What is the best way to send feedback to Judge Academy? You can tell me today. That's a fine one. If you want to send an email, you can do that as well. It depends on who you want to talk to. If I assume many of you know Nicolette. You know Nicolette? The head nodding. Okay. So you could email Nicolette if it's a community-related thing. If it is something that's on the business development or the management side, you can just send me an email. For today, you can do Tim at Cascade Games, or you could do Tim at Judge Academy. I believe that's on. If it's not, it will be turned on the next day or so. And what we have picked a group of folks who are going to be the next, we're calling them community managers. It's essentially an RC in many ways. They will be local representatives for you as well. So that's another way to reach out. Next.
You mentioned that you don't think Wizards of the Coast will require judges at events. I was wondering why you don't think so. We require plumbers to work on plumbing. If this is a certification to do something,
you know what? You should just turn that way and project because my voice is getting excited. But it's a great question. Go ahead.
Why do you think that Wizards should not require or will not require judges at events? We require plumbers to work on plumbing. And those in certified position. Why not do the same?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, that is a question for Wizards of the Coast. I wish I could answer every question of the world in a satisfying way. But ultimately, what I can tell you is Wizards of the Coast no longer requires judges of any certification for any event they run. I don't know if that's forever. You may have noticed sometimes they change their minds about things, right? I don't know if that's a forever thing, but today they do not require that, and it's going to take a while for that to change. If you want me to speculate, I'll do it when I'm not on camera.
That's fine.
But and I'm happy to do that once this is done. But what I can tell you is they don't, and at least for the foreseeable future, they're not going to. And it sucks, because you're right. If you can require a plumber to do plumbing, why can't you require a judge to do judging? But it is, I want to actually make a serious, really critical point. I'm trying to fix the things I can, and there's a bunch of things I can't fix because I don't have my Superman cape. What I can do is I can make the testing process better, I can make an online community better. One thing I should tell you, I had a long talk with folks at Wizards of the Coast about judge foils. Everybody like judge foils? Somebody give me a nod? Okay. Judge foils should not suck, right? Yeah. So judge foils my argument was to them was judge foils should do one of two things. They should either change the community in terms of we're getting cards out there that are not currently out there in order to make something more available for Commander or whatever, and or they should make judges smile when they receive them, right? One of the two, probably both. If what you're doing is reprinting a 25-cent rare, it doesn't make judges smile and it doesn't serve your needs to change things in the play community. I have a commitment from them to not have the judge foils suck. And which gets to, yes, much better. I can't tell you what they are yet, but I know what this year's foils are going to be. And collectively, they kick ass. They're real good. I think you're going to be very, very happy. Speaking of which, do you know, so one of the sticking points, one of the things people are quite upset about is we have to charge membership fees, right? Anybody pissed? Come on, a little bit.
Kind of.
Yeah, it really hurts, right? You've been doing a thing. The program has been run for 20 some years. For the first year or two, there was a subscription you had to pay, and then it went away. So why are we charging membership dues? Anybody know? Shit's not free. There you go.
You're actually paying people.
If it turns out, if we're going to pay people to do things, and if we're going to do things in a above board way, you have to have income. But the other thing people keep saying is the relationship with Wizards is a little tense, and we want to have a high degree of independence. Well, if every time we need to do something, anything, we have to go to one publisher or another in order to get resources, we will never have independence. So my fundamental bargain for you is you pay a membership fee, you pay dues, just like nearly every professional services organization. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get a higher degree, not complete independence, but a higher degree of independence. And as a thank you, Wizards has agreed to hook everybody up with really good foils. If you register by before November 1st, so we'll come online on October 1st, you've got 30 days. If you register within that time, you get the foils that have been announced. Hey, Denise? Oh, Liz, I'm sorry. Liz, would you grab those decks for me? Thanks, Liz, sorry. Sorry, I'm tired.
Okay.
Then, shut up, you. You, shut up. I knew he was the one laughing. I didn't even look. And then there's going to be 8 more foils for that year that are going out. And then we're going to save 2 foils as well that are going to be used specifically for conferences. And so that way we can continue supporting conferences well. And I am very sympathetic to the argument that, hey, I live in Brazil or Argentina or whatever, and I can't afford $100 a year. There's an argument to be said for that. In the United States, in Canada, whatever, if you are a member and you then take your judge foils, you're going to come out so far ahead. You're going to come out dramatically ahead. Like the remaining foils that haven't been announced are at least as good as what has been. Yeah, exactly. You could, yes, I like the eyebrows go up when we say that. They're real good. Actually, would you guys pass them out? One per person. Yeah. So Asmodee Keyforge, one of the things they're doing is they're coming on board. No one's going to be required to learn any other games, but if you do and you want to have a chance to judge for other companies, you'll have those opportunities. Asmodee decided to give us decks so you all can learn how to play their game. So that's just a little thing today. Yeah. Okay. Next question.
Liz, if you want to set the boxes down, I'll open them for you as you pass them out.
Louder. Actually, hold on. Let me just do it. I know what your question is. Will, will Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro be able to decertify or take action against judges who don't violate Judge Academy's code of conduct? That's a tricky one, right? That is not an easy one, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. I don't own the I do not own the sanctioning system, right? So will they be able to take away your certification from Judge Academy on a whim, is essentially what you're asking. The answer is no, of course not. Any more than any other company could take away your certification doing something else, okay? However, they can and do control who can participate in their events. And so if what you're doing is you're judging esports, you're judging for 10 other companies, and I absolutely expect that we will have 10, 20, 30 other publishers over time. Will any one company, I mean, it's not really about Wizards, right? Will any one company be able to come in and say, you're out, period? No. However, presumably you care a whole bunch about Magic. And do they get to control Magic? Yeah. They can bump anybody out of any tournament they choose, right? Now, to whatever degree we have strong independence, I at least have a loud mouth. I talk a lot at a minimum. I will if there's something that I think is unfair, I will be an advocate. But what I can do is I can make sure Judge Academy treats you fairly, okay? That includes having a rigorous code of conduct. That includes having people who are trained, backed up by attorneys, backed up by HR professionals. So the current Judge Conduct Committee, which is a beautiful idea and has a lot of flaws in practice, we're going to fix those problems. So I can do pieces of this. But, pick a publisher at random. Bob's Publishing House. They get to control their community because ultimately they're the ones who are, because all of the retailers, all of the tournament organizers have agreed to follow their rules. Was that satisfying at all? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. So I will do what I can, but I can't do everything. Who's next?
I guess my question is like,
Oh, I'm sorry. Darn it! I thought you would wave me off. Go, who's next?
oh no, it's
Myself.
never mind. No, it's not my command.
You kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but so as far as I've been in the program, judges have never directly funded NPR with
Judges haven't funded the judge program for 20 some years.
Right. So clearly, there should be under no delusion that we have access to their operating books or anything like that. But what protections do we have against any sort of mismanagement in the future of the actual program itself?
Sure, that's a fair one. Okay, to paraphrase, how do we know you're going to be ethical? How do we know you're not going to screw up? And how do we know that this is going to be a fair deal? That a fair paraphrase? Okay, so I'll take the ethical part first. Not everybody here knows me, right? This is a different area of the country than I've usually operated in, but everybody here knows somebody who knows me. I'm not somebody who's brand new to the scene. I was sitting 2 cubicles away from the person who created the original judge program back when I was at Wizards of the Coast. I have been arguing that this program needed to be reformed since before it was a program. I've always believed that we needed categories that made sense. We needed specialization. We needed to cover the whole event, not just judging, blah, blah, blah. Okay? You can know that I'm not going to change, because why the heck would I? I am still the crusty old bastard I've always been. Okay, so that's one piece. Another piece that you can know, but is this actually the one super positive thing that came out of Reddit. This may be the only positive thing that's ever come out of Reddit.
Oh.
But little dig there. I'm a little touchy this week. Was the idea of having an independent organization review the books, I'm not going to share all the financial details. Among other things, if I tried to do that, it would extremely limit my ability to do business deals with companies. I can't do that. I'm not going to pretend to be something that I'm not. We're not going to be when it turned out we couldn't be a nonprofit, I'm not going to pretend I'm a nonprofit, but be a for-profit. I've had enough of the madness of pretending to be a thing when you're not really the thing, right? But it's absolutely reasonable to have an independent third party examine the books and say, and look for things like gross negligence. The other piece I can tell you, in terms of how do you know we're not going to make mistakes, how do you know we're not going to fuck up, I promise you we're going to make mistakes. It's too complicated, it's too hard. But what's going to happen is that when we make mistakes, you're going to tell us and then we're going to fix it. Because ultimately, you're my customer. I want you to be happy. I want the publishers to be happy. And if we're making mistakes, we're gonna fix it. And so what you really have, the true answer is you have my reputation, you have the reputation of everybody else who's doing this, and you have the reality that that I give you my word that if we screw up, we'll do our best to fix it. Now, there are categories of screw-ups that I can't fix. There are people who think it is a major screw-up not to form a union, and I absolutely understand that. But there are things I just don't get to do. But if it's within my power, I will do my best to address it. How are we doing on time?
40.
Okay, because I do not want you all to be late for your shifts, because Alan would kill me, and that man's vicious. Did you just call Aerosmith Baldy? Okay,
that's his
hi,
name.
hi Baldy. Okay, go ahead.
What's his name?
Mine goes back to,
Got to go louder.
I wish I could.
Okay, here. Okay,
What do we do about
So, Baldy asked, or Aerosmith asked, so previously...
how about Michael? But anyway, go ahead. Mr.
Whatever
Aerosmith,
you
sir.
want, as long as it's clear who's asking.
Okay, the guy.
Michael is curious about, in the past, there have potentially been people that have had issues taking online tests or even time tests. Is there any plans to have accessibility features for people that maybe have test
Yeah,
taking
sure.
anxiety and stuff like that? That kind of stuff.
Okay, did everybody hear the question? What do we do for folks that have special needs? Are we going to accommodate that? Absolutely. My background is, we burned through those, didn't we? My background is that I've got a master's degree in counseling. I am extremely I am dyslexic myself. I am extremely sympathetic to the reality that different people learn different ways and that we need to accommodate other people. And so yes, we're going to do that. It's not going to happen on October 1 because it turns out October 1 is really close. What should have happened in a perfect world is we should have been funded, and we should have had somewhere between a year and a year and a half to get all of this stuff in place. That's not how reality works sometimes. And so it's going to be a little bumpy at first, and then over time we're going to get our act together because it takes time to do these things. And I'm sorry about that, but that's the reality. Next person.
So, the next question is, you mentioned hiring. What does that look like? Will there be an application process? And what are the contract terms? What are the contract terms of the current people that have been hired on?
Okay, so what does hiring look like? I had a real dilemma of hiring people. I posted on Facebook and my I posted on Facebook job descriptions, but I couldn't write things like judge program. I had to create a job description that was secret, essentially. And so if you knew what was happening and read between the lines, maybe, kind of, sort of, you could figure it out. It really sucked to do that, and it absolutely limited the pool of folks who applied. I tried to emphasize in the community managers, folks who had a lot of experience. As we move forward, we're going to have an open hiring process where there's a clear application, there's a clear job description, a clear period of time, and everyone's welcome to apply. So that's what it's going to look like. The positions that I know we're going to hire for as soon as we can include, we're going to need a full-time testing coordinator. As we bring on esports, which I expect that to happen quickly, with probably not by October 1, but soon, because the skills you folks have are very much in demand. And it may be, some folks, when I talk to them, they're like, but we do rulings, and esports have the logic of the rules programmed in. Well, it turns out, you may have noticed, esports has a little problem around player conduct. Some people are busy saying things to each other online that they probably shouldn't. They have all of the things that you folks know. Yeah, that's right. Get to them. All of the things that you folks know about managing a community and managing events, they need desperately. So that's going to come online fairly quickly, and we'll be hiring multiple people to manage relationships with esports publishers. Ultimately, I think we're going to end up with something like 10 employees. Now, for those of you who busted out your pocket calculator and you're like, hey, if every judge globally comes on board and pays $100, $200, or $400, what happens? Because it turns out we're going to spend more money in salaries by far than what we're going to take in based on membership fees. And that's where we're going to get creative. But anyway, next question. Please. No. Who? Are you good? Go ahead. Go ahead, do your thing. We're almost out of time, buddy.
So one of the questions that we have there in South, there's an announcement that, hey, we're going to go out and help you guys and talk to TOs and kind of get some more information about how to
I don't know if I would quite say not be dumbasses, but sure. I would say, at this point, the system's in a little bit of shambles. It's not even clear who the big TOs are, but sure. Actually, we're being recorded, so don't tell me where. Yes, it's going to be a long-term effort. It actually starts, I just put in the applications to do some speaking at Gamma to talk to retailers about why you need a judge and how you should interact with judges. So we are going to keep doing this, and that is one of the core things that we can do as an organization, is to make that argument. Okay, what else we got? I think I lost my facilitator. Oh, whatever, get to it. Get to it. Louder. With the current staffing, a lot of them. No. Honestly, no. Is anybody, guys, conflicts of interest. This is a really small industry. Is there going to be conflicts of interest? In theory, yes. There's all kinds of conflicts of interest. I'm a TO. I'm also running the Judge Academy. It turns out I'm also an ex-Wizards of the Coast employee from 20-some years ago, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of theoretical conflicts. But the reality is that the stakes are so amazingly low around what money somebody receives from a publisher, realistically, there's not going to be significant problems around conflicts of interest. What there will be is what we've had in the past, which is we've had conflicts around ethics, right? And we have, as a community, as a judge community, as a TO community, there have been significant problems around ethics. And it's not, the things that I've seen that are horrific have not been, oh my gosh, I can't wear two hats, and I can't be an RC and also work for an employee, a tournament organizer. What I've seen is we have people who need to be bounced out of either the PTO community, the TO community, or the judge community. And that's why we have to have a rigorous code of conduct. We have to be more zealous than we've been, and we have to give the people who are doing this the legal protection they need, because currently the Judge Conduct Committee doesn't have a lawyer that they can call up and say, hey, I need some advice about this thing. Well, that's crazy, right? What we're doing is we're asking people to police a community without giving them the backup they need. And so, at least in my opinion, that's how I see it happening. I promise you, though, if there are conflicts of interest that develop over time, I will take steps to address them. But I don't think conflicts are the problem. I think people's behavior without conflicts is a fine, I think that's where the problem is. You all have to go on shift very soon. How much time? I want to be respectful. 10 minutes. Okay, who's next?
So, in the branch of Judge Foils, what forum will they be decided in? Will it be three by the main part, one by the community? That way the community has a role to decide?
Guys, bad news for you. Here's the deal. There has been an illusion that the judge program is a democracy. It has never been a democracy, and I don't get to hold a vote. As much as I would love to hold a vote and get Wizards of the Coast to agree to abide by our vote, and then that's how the judge foils get picked, right? That would be awesome. They're never going to agree to that. It's not even reasonable to ask. What we can do is, and what they've said is, they will listen to our suggestions, not about what cards to pick, that's going to be their gig, but which artists to work with. So I think that part's cool. And I wish I could give you what you want, but it's not going to happen. And that one, as likely as I can imagine, I don't think they will ever do that. Yeah, buddy. Oh. Okay.
I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. With the module system we are designing today. With the system for modules we're designing, how's this gonna work? So I can tell you for L3s, having a L3 panel has proven to be incredibly important. I don't expect panels to go away. There may be some mix of some more of the contents online, but ultimately there will be judge panels for L3s. L2, I don't know, under development. Unfortunately, I'm working really hard on one while trying to build an organization, while trying to sign up other publishers. And so I just don't have that answer yet. But but I can tell you
Good morning,
philosophically.
Magic players. If you are here for 9 a.m.
Where were we? Modules testing. Okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry, I started thinking about the logistics of MiniMaster, and I totally don't think that's the right way to do it. I think MiniMaster is way better if you choose how many layers. I'm going there. So the answer is we don't know. We're working on three works the way it is. One is going to be primarily online. Two, we'll see. Next question. Question is, what happens to the larger projects? We're going through and saying, whose job should it be? The investigations committee actually shouldn't be our job. Wizards of the Coast should be investigating their own events. Why do judges do that? I got no answer for why that should be our job. But ultimately, the rule is, if I ask you to do a thing, whatever that thing is, you will be paid, because that's how U.S. law works. Yeah, that's how the global law works. If I ask you to do a thing, you get paid for it. If you decide you want to do the thing on your own, then you own it. So if what you want to do in a project is you want to create a document, post a document, more power to you. If I didn't ask for it, then that's yours. You can post it on our site. You can post it on somebody else's site. You can pass it out as a leaflet, whatever you want. That's yours. If what you're doing is doing a thing that's necessary for the organization, then you deserve to be paid.
Mine was kind of answered already. Okay.
So historically, Cascade has not staffed judges who are younger than 18.
Yes.
And Pokemon and other companies have similar policies.
Yes.
Will Judge Apps be adopting, or Judge Academy be adopting a similar policy to Cascade and Pokemon?
There's no relationship between Cascade's policies for staffing events and Judge Academy. Okay. It's not like Judge Academy is trying to make Cascade Games' life easier. Having said that, I don't see, I haven't talked to an attorney about it. I can't see a particular reason why you can't be a judge at a younger level. Now, having said that, there's a whole lot of reasons why in different states you can't work at different ages, right? The laws around when you can work, how you can work, how long your shifts can be, blah, 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 are really complicated. And so if you're under 18, it's going to be harder to work than if you're over 18. But I don't see today at this moment, I don't see a compelling reason why we have to have an age limit. It may be that I'm missing something, but I don't see one. Okay, did I do a good enough job answering your questions?
We appreciate it.
Okay, would you like to spend more time talking? Is everybody working all day today, or?
So stuff comes down.
Okay, so I am happy. I'm gonna be at Gen Con all day. If you see me wandering around like an aimless old man yelling at clouds, feel free to grab me and just ask me questions.
Sir, are you okay?
Yes, sir, are you okay? What's wrong? But so I very much appreciate you guys coming. What I would ask of you is, if this sounds reasonable, please give us a try. If this doesn't sound reasonable, tell me why. And I know that this is a little bit of a trust fall, right? What I'm essentially saying is most of the content doesn't exist. The organization doesn't exist yet. And I know people feel burned. Frankly, you should. You have been burned. But you haven't been burned by me. And so so please give it a try and give me a try. And that's what this all comes down to. And I know as a judge, you want details, you want things, you want it all buttoned down, you want clear answers, and I don't have them yet. I have philosophy, and we've made a bunch of progress. We should have something to show you in terms of an online learning platform, in the next 30 days or so, and at that point, and we're going to start putting up contracts for folks to bid on in terms of developing content soon, hopefully within the next week to 2 weeks. With that, thank you.